Well, here we go. Welcome to the Cabinet Maker Profit System podcast. It's just for woodshop owners like cabinet makers, architectural mill workers, and those of you in the closet trade. If you're interested in the business of the woodshop business, welcome home. Because this show is all about how to get to the next level by working smarter, not just harder. I want you to work from the neck up. I want you to start understanding that at some point, the money, the time, the success, the achievement isn't in the sawdust anymore. It's where it starts. That's where the work is done, the hands-on work, but the thinking work happens here on this show. And on this show, we're going to talk about how to use business tools to attack the bottlenecks and get you, this company, this wood shop, and your team to the next level. Today's guest it's me. It's Dominic Ravino. Hey, listen, if we haven't connected on LinkedIn yet, please connect with me there. I use LinkedIn quite a bit. Just look me up, send out a connection link, and let's do that. If you're not on the Facebook group, it's called Contractor Strategy Group. It's just owners. It's probably it's the last useful corner of Facebook is how we talk about it. We don't do a ton of posting in there. Really, it's a place for you to ask questions with people like yourselves. It is really hard being a business owner, being a shop owner, when the people you talk to 9 times out of 10 all day long are either the people in your shop or your customers, and they don't really have your business interests in mind like we do here. So join the Contractor Strategy Group, and you'll be able to talk to a lot of other contractors there. We talk about pricing. We talk about team issues. Those come up quite a bit there. Hey, what are you doing around this? What are you doing around that? And as my son said about his school, and we all know what's going on in school these days, he said, "Where's my safe space, Dad?" And so you know what I mean by that. This Contractor Strategy Group on Facebook would be your safe space as a business owner. If at any point in time you want to reach out to me, I'd love to talk to you. Let's just have a quick phone call. You can always shoot me a text. My cell number is 315-903-7853 and just say, "Dom, let's talk." So today we're going to talk about those of you who are stuck self-implementing EOS, which is the entrepreneur operating system from the book Traction. You can actually see it behind me here. Those of you watching this on YouTube, right behind me, there's the book. Today, we're going to get back to basics. Now, I want to say why this episode is important. It's important, and I'm doing it myself because I want to walk you through what it looks like to put a strategic plan in place in your business. Now, by the way, it does not matter what size your shop is. If you're listening to this and you're looking out over your shop floor and you're like, "Dom, we're going to do 20, 30 million this year in architectural millwork," you're going to get value out of this episode. If you're walking into the shop and it's just you just got a couple of tools, you're trying to put pieces together, you're doing vanities, you're doing built-ins, and you're like, "I don't know how I'm ever going to grow." This show is for you as well, because the guy who's doing 20 or 30 million was you only a couple of years ago. Really, we're in one of the greatest industries around where you can reinvent yourself in a relatively short time. Those of you in the closet space, you don't really have anybody speaking to you about the business of the woodshop business, and that's why you're here. I'm going to be sharing stories in today's episode of people who've done it, had success, and also some of the roadblocks that they've hit, because those I think are valuable to talk about as well. And I'm going to pull things apart into tiny pieces. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them back together again right in front of your eyes as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. How do we rebuild a business? And I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk you through the systems to do that. And of course, I've got tools that I want to share if you want to do this on your own. And hopefully, let's see, this is going to be left up to you. I'm going to give each and every person listening $501 by the end of today's episode. $501. So that's the challenge we put out there. Look, you probably know this already, and you're probably looking for them, but there's actually simple systems to make this business run smoother, better, so you can get clarity instead of living in chaos, so you can have certainty instead of uncertainty, so you just understand what the future holds instead of wondering, or maybe just showing up day by day and it feels like Groundhog Day. Those simple systems give you that quiet confidence, and you'll know I love this. I do this. This is a physical anchoring tool. Shoulders back, head up, chin up just by 1/4 of an inch. Deep breath in and out. That's the feeling that this show is supposed to give you, and I hope it does. If I had to summarize everything for this podcast, it's actually about the mindset of growth and success for you as a business owner. Now, I said mindset, and you guys know what that means. Today, we're going to do something a little different. I want to talk about wisdom. When I was a little kid and I said my prayers before bed, I actually used to pray for wisdom. Don't ask me where that came from. I just always wanted to be wise. I didn't want to be smart. I didn't want to be fast. I didn't want to be strong. I wanted to be wise. And I don't know why I thought that. I just always thought that it would be more valuable to others if I was wise. So, anyways, today we're going to share wisdom in business, and then I'm going to share wisdom in life. So, this wisdom in business thing, I've seen it floating around and I've always found it interesting. And I thought I'd share it here with you today. I want you to think about this because this is a business owner's perspective, right? I want you to be here. So, you're a business person who just happens to run a cabinet shop. So, think about this. If the circus is coming to town and you paint a sign, and that sign says circus coming to the fairground Saturday, that, my friend, is advertising. Now, if you go ahead and take that same sign, you put it on the back of an elephant and you walk that elephant into town, that's promotion, right? Now, if the elephant happens to walk through the mayor's flower bed, that is publicity. And then if you get the mayor to laugh about it publicly, well, that's public relations. And if you did all of this on purpose, that is marketing. Now, if everybody in town comes to the circus and then you show them the entertainment booths, you explain how much fun they'll have spending money at the booths, answer their questions, and ultimately they spend a lot of money at the circus, that, my friend, is sales. So that's the wisdom in business, all wrapped up in the story of a circus and an elephant. And now in your mind, all you can see is the butt of an elephant walking through town. Now, let me do wisdom in life. This is actually, excuse me, guys, sorry about that. Somebody in the woodworking trade, so you may not have thought about before. This gentleman makes pencils. He hand makes pencils. And there's some wisdom in what he does, right? So I want you to imagine an old man hand making pencils. He's making pencils day by day. And then one day he stops and he takes his newest pencil aside and he just looks at it and he reflects on that pencil. Just before he's about to pack that pencil into a box, he thinks about the life that that pencil's going to have. And he said, there's 5 things you need to know, my little pencil, before I send you out into the world. Always remember these 5 things. Don't forget them. And you will become the best pencil that you can ever be. The first thing is to remember that you'll be able to do many great things, but only if you put yourself in someone else's hands. Number 2, every once in a while, you're going to experience a painful sharpening. But remember that it's only to make you a better pencil. Third, I want you to keep in mind you will always be able to correct any mistakes you might make along the way. Fourth, the most important part of you is what's on the inside. And number 5, remember this very, very well. On every surface that you get used on, you have to leave your mark. No matter what else happens, you must continue to write. I want you to think long and hard about that. There's a hidden message in there for each and every one of us. If we take a minute to think about it, what's the wisdom that you can pull out of the story of the little pencil, right? Whose hands have you put yourself in? Are you going through painful sharpening right now? Let me ask you this. Think about the people who always avoid that painful sharpening. This show might be painful sharpening, facing the brutal reality of the situation you're in, but also understanding the steps that can be taken to get out of that situation. Some people avoid this conversation altogether. And of course, they never move ahead, right? Think about all of those things. That's the wisdom that I want to bring you today as we start to think about this upcoming episode. All right, before we get to the episode, guys, look, you know that I'm a business coach. You know that I love what I do. And one day I'd be very proud to be your business coach. But I know some of you are fast forwarding through this part and going straight into the episode. Don't do that. What are you, Clint Eastwood with that button? William, I'm talking to you. Martin, I might be talking to you as well. I think you're missing out on something, boys, because at the end of the show, I do a very specific training segment. It's free training where I unpack, I simplify and solve a common business problem. And if you don't wait to the end, if you don't stay all the way to the end, I know these episodes are long. It's just the format that I've chosen to take. But if you don't wait all the way to the end, then you're missing a little bit of the education. Do the math with me here, folks. If you spend 1 hour a day driving, then you could turn your car into a university, or your truck into a university. For those of you who have kids in college, think about how much you spend for them to get 1 credit in 1 course. That's about 16 hours of education. 16 hours. Well, if you drive to work, 5 days a week, you guys are laughing, right? Just say 250 days a year. And you're able to get in 125 hours of education in there somehow just by doing an hour a day of listening to this podcast or listening to audiobooks, things that enrich your mind. What impact will that have on you? Look over at the car next to you in traffic. He's listening to burp fart radio. Guy on the other side, he was listening to sports radio, which is fine. Do that every once in a while. But use this time differently than everybody else, and you'll get different results. Use this time differently today, and you change the legacy of your last name. Your kids and your kids' kids will benefit from what you do now. That's just how it works. That is just how it works. The small changes I make today add up to big changes in the future. Anyways, guys, if I could ever be of service, if you're curious about business coaching, if you're ready to take the next step, always shoot me a text message. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853. And just say, Dom, let's talk. And you know what we'll do? We'll talk. Let's go into business coach mode for 1 second as we go into this episode. I want to talk to you about another maker, another fabricator, but a famous fabricator. This famous fabricator, if he was alive today, you'd be sitting next to him at a conference, at a trade show. You wouldn't even know it. Here's what he said that was really impactful, and I pulled this quote on purpose. He said, knowing is not enough. We must apply. He also said, being willing is not enough. We must do. I wonder if anybody knows that famous quote. It comes from Leonardo da Vinci. He painted The Last Supper. He drew the Vitruvian Man. Now, if you know the Vitruvian Man, that's that sketch, charcoal sketch on paper. Sometimes it's kind of in red charcoal, but it's the circle with the man in it, and the man standing, in a starfish position, and it's multiple views of the same thing. That's called the Vitruvian Man. But did you know that as a scientist, Leonardo had no formal education in Latin or math and didn't go to university? Does that sound like anybody listening to this show? How many people am I so proud of who listen to this show that got through or didn't get through high school, started but maybe didn't finish college, and now are running multi-million-dollar cabinet shops, million-dollar closet shops, multi-million-dollar architectural millwork firms where architects come to you for the big questions? Didn't finish college, maybe just barely got through high school. Stand proud, because you're a self-made, I'm going to say a self-made man, a self-made woman. You've done what needs to be done, and you're not burdened by theory. You are all reality. Leonardo da Vinci invented machines of war, but also bridges. He invented helicopters. And like I said, if he existed today, he'd just be some guy sitting next to you at the conference. Well, he'd be dressed funny, but you know what I mean? Like, just one of us. One of us. Anyways, if you've ever thought about what it would be like to be a business person who just happens to run a construction company, cabinet shop, a millwork shop, but I want to be a business person who runs a millwork shop, this show was made for you. By the end of today's episode, you're going to know what that feels like. So let's get to it. Hello, everybody. Hey, listen, today we're going to be doing an episode where it's just me talking. And I do that from time to time when I want to bring clarity to a subject. And one of the things that I really want to bring clarity to today is for those of you that are self-implementing EOS. Now, for those of you who don't know what EOS is, I'll start there. Those of you who are self-implementing EOS or a strategic plan already know what I'm talking about, but just give me a quick second. EOS is an acronym, right? Each of those letters stands for something. And it's the EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And now that all comes from a book called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the book behind me here, that black book with the orange title in it. It's a book written by Gino Wickman, and Gino has just done a brilliant job of summarizing everything that you need to do to get back in control of your business so that you can grow it the way that you want. Now, does he have the only system out there? No. There's a couple of systems out there. As a matter of fact, I've built two significant businesses, one of them using the EOS framework that we just talked about, and the other one with another really powerful framework that some of you might be using, especially if you're on the larger side of, if your company's much larger. And that one's called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, and that's by Vern Harnish. Now, that one is a lot of gun for the bear. I'll tell you that. I'm familiar with both of those because I also built a company on that framework. But years later, Gino rewrote everything and came up with this EOS book Traction is the book, and EOS is the framework. And then for more acronyms, we do something called a VTO, which is a Vision Traction Organizer. Now, those of you that listen to the show have heard many of our clients who we have as guests here talking about the success that they've had by putting systems in place in the business and having regular meetings and laying out their goals from a 10-year vision down to a 3-year vision, down to a 1-year vision. And then we show them how on a quarterly basis to grow, right? And that we do that through the coaching meetings that we have. And so all of the tools that go together for that is what we talk about here on the show, right? You hear me talking about issues of time, team, money, growth, exit planning, marketing, and sales. All of those things are captured. All of those actions are captured in that plan. So if you're stuck implementing EOS on your own, I want to take you through a 5-point checklist. We'll just do this here right now as we're going. If you've never looked at EOS, if you've never looked at putting a strategic plan in your business, that's okay. You might not be ready for it yet, but I do want you to pay attention to some of these things, because in your company, whether you've got 2 employees or 20 employees, you're going to find a lot of these similarities, and it's worth asking yourself these kind of questions. And look, I don't mind saying, I think the only place in our entire construction and contracting, podcasting, and YouTube framework where you even hear this stuff is through me. And the reason for that is because I've done it and I continue to do it. I don't rely on trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. I believe in finding a system and working the heck out of the system, just the same as you find a set of blueprints and then you project manage the heck out of it to get a successful outcome. I did the same thing on the business side, and I continue to do that. I've got coaches on my team. We're all trained the same. All of us have put EOS or Rockefeller in place in our own businesses. And so we know it. We've bumped against the sides. We've lived through the pains. We've gone through what I'm going to talk about today. So if you're self-implementing EOS, and if you're not, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode. So let's jump into it. The very first thing I want to ask you is if you're stuck in putting any sort of strategic plan in place in your business, here's 5 questions I want you to ask yourself. Number 1, are all of your direct reports the right people in the right seats? Now, I just had this conversation with a contractor who's been working with me for a while, and he grew. When I met him, he was doing $1 million in sales. It sounds great for a lot of people. That's the dream. Doing $1 million bucks. I can't wait until we're doing $1 million bucks. Except he was $1 million and not profitable at all. Just not profitable. He took what you and I would know as project profits. And I remember when I took project profits, those were fantastic, because I would say to my wife, honey, there's extra money in the account. And she would say, well, let's not touch it for a couple of weeks and see if any other bills come in. Let's say there was $6,000 in there. We didn't know what to do. Oh my God, there's $6,000. And so we kind of look at that money and say, okay, after 2 weeks, if there's no surprises, let's take an extra $2,000. So we take that $2,000 and be like, oh my God, we're rich, you know? And then a couple of weeks later, we kind of forgot and the money just got moved into all operations. Well, that's project profits, at least the way I did it. I don't know how you do it. You know, if the checkbook says I can take it, I'm going to take it. That's project profits. But there was no consistency. There's no reliability. There was a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on him as the owner, a lot of feelings of doubt because he was trying to support a team and grow a business and do a great job for clients. Phone calls are coming in, as we know. And he didn't have that certainty in his business, that quiet confidence. And I talk about that quiet confidence here on the show. I want you to do this with me. If you want that quiet confidence, if you want to know what that feels like, do this with me right now. I want you, if you're sitting in your chair or if you're standing, that's fine. If you're driving, you can do this as well. But I want you to just sit up straight and I want you to put your shoulders back just a little bit. Just shoulders back, head up, neck straight, head straight. And then I want you to lift your chin just 1/4 inch. And once you've done that, you're standing strong, right? Your core is engaged. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's quiet confidence. The outcome of this whole thing, having a strategic plan, self-implementing EOS or not, but having a plan, waking up in the morning with certainty. That's what I want for you. And that's what all this is about. So when we talk about that client there, that contractor, asking himself, for all of my people, the right people in the right seats, the answer was no. And here's the challenge. You may have heard me say this already. We'd already been working together for years. So now you might be saying, well, Dom, you suck as a business coach. How could he get in that situation if he'd been working with you for years? And I say, yeah, maybe I do suck as a business coach. That might be true. But here's what we did to fix it. First of all, we did all the things that we needed to do when we were hiring people, right? But have you ever had that hire, and it happens to all of us, where, Sofia Vergara shows up for the interview, but Rosie O'Donnell shows up for work, if that makes sense? You hire people and then the worst of them shows up when you actually hire them. And we've all encountered this. I'm not going to pretend that we don't. There's a strategy that we've all heard as business owners, and maybe it's whispered when you're talking to really the most closest advisors or friends that are business owners, when we say it's better to hire slow and fire fast. I mean, just this week, that's come up with multiple clients, not only of mine, but also of Lee's, of Jake, of Omzi's, of Ryan's. We all talk about that. Those are all the coaches on the team, of course. We talk about that. Who of our clients is in a situation where they've hired slow, but now they've got to fire fast because we don't have the right people in the right seats. Think about your company right now. Do you have the right people in the right seats doing the right thing? And listen, the right people does not mean technical skill. I'm talking about that magic unseen thing that holds it all together, which is attitude. Does everybody in your team have the right attitude, or are they cancer inside your organization? Anyways, going back to this gentleman who has grown from 1 million to around 5 now, super profitable at 5. I think his net profit, we just calculated his net profit, so that's after everything. It was 14 point something percent, 14% net profit. So that's pretty good. We have a lot of work to go. We're not done. 14% net is good. It's not great. It's good. It's very good, but it can be very gooder. And we're getting towards very gooder. A lot of smart moves need to be made next, right? So ask yourself this question. As you're trying to self-implement EOS, or as you're trying to get control of this company and go from chaos to clarity, are all of your direct reports the right people in the right seat? Now, if that's not the case, then look, shoot me a text message and just say, Dom, let's talk. If you want to talk about the business of your contracting business, that's exactly what I'm here for. You guys know my cell phone number. It's 315-903-7853. Just say, Dom, let's talk. That's how it all starts. Let's talk. Talking, it doesn't cost us any money. We're going to get on the phone for half an hour. Let's just have a chat. I'll guide you through some things and I'll point you in the right direction. Anyways, that's item number 1. Number 2, okay, we're on a 5-point checklist to gut check yourself. Gut check yourself on why you might be stuck implementing EOS or something else. Are all of your meetings healthy, productive, and necessary? So one of the really hard things is that we all know meetings suck. They stink. We are so incredibly busy. The last thing any of us wants is another meeting, right? Am I wrong? No. But are you having healthy meetings, productive meetings, and necessary meetings? There's something I actually learned from one of my clients, and she's a very, very powerful female CEO in the contracting trades. And she says meetings are for making decisions. And she is so absolutely crystal clear right. One of the hard things about meetings is to be brutally honest about who needs to be in there. If you're in a meeting with me, you need to be there. If you don't need to be there, you don't need to be in that meeting. If you're not going to leave with an accountability, if you're not going to leave with a checklist of things to do, you don't need to be in that meeting. Now, the only exception to that is sometimes you'll have a visitor to the meeting, which is totally cool, right? But sometimes you'll have an administrator there, an admin person who's there to help take notes, general support, that really important person helping the owner. And by the way, if you don't have an administrator yet, you might need to give your head a shake. Why don't you? Why don't you? There's something, I'm going to get all business coachy on you now, folks. So prepare yourselves. Maybe take a sip of your coffee. I'll take a sip of coffee too. Let's do this together. I want to change your headspace for a second. An administrator is somebody who helps. You might call it an office manager, and then you might extend it and say office manager / bookkeeper. Whatever that position is, I want you to understand that you can't do this all alone. We need to find ways to leverage you and your brain, because we've got to keep your brain operating at its highest level in the business so you can think the big thinks and make the big decisions to grow the business. We've done this math before, but let me do it again with you. Let's say for a moment, you've built your business to $1 million a year in sales. That's somewhere between 83,000 and 85,000 per month on an ongoing basis, right? So that's great. You've built yourself to that level, probably on your own because you are internally motivated and driven. There's a fire in you that nobody around you understands. You're just a driven person. And you've built this company to $1 million on your own, straight will and determination. And you're standing around, you're like, hey, I'm doing a good job, but I know there's more. There's more in the tank, but I don't know how to get the gears going, right? And by the way, I'm just using $1 million as an example. You could be $10 million, 20, 100 million. You're still going to have this same conversation. But what I want to talk to you about right now comes under a number of different names. We're going to talk about it right now from revenue responsibility per hour, which you've heard me talk about here on the show. For those of you who want the academic reference, if those of you want to know that I'm not pulling this out of my head, it's called Ricardo's Law of Comparative Advantage, right? Some of you would call it dollar cost averaging, depending on if you listen to other financial investment shows. But it's about using money and time in a smarter way, right? So let me go back to the example of those of you doing about $1 million in sales a year. Now, how many hours a year do you work? Now you're all laughing, and don't get your wife to answer this question because she's going to say, you work all of them, right? And if that's the case, we definitely have some systems for you. Contact me. You don't have to work every single hour of the day. You still need to be a family person, mom, a dad, whatever you are, right? But the simple math here is divide those two numbers together. If you work 50 weeks a year, right? Every year's got 52 weeks. So let's say there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas, maybe you take off some time to go hunting and fishing, whatever it is, but I'm going to just knock off 2 weeks, right? So 50 weeks a year, and you work 40 hours a week. I know. Well, I got to do the math with something. You're laughing. Dom, I do 40 hours by Wednesday. I get it. But just say you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. That's 2,000 hours a year. So you divide 1 million and 2,000 hours, and you come out to an hourly revenue responsibility of $500 per hour. What does that mean? And how does this relate to whether all your meetings are healthy, productive, and necessary? Because you, my friend, as the leader, standing tall, shoulders back, head straight, chin up, deep breath in, you are responsible for $500 an hour in productivity in this company. You and me both. When I'm your coach, actually standing beside you, when any of us on our team as your coaches, there for the implementation of the plan, we're the same. Like, we're responsible. We are fully responsible and accountable to make sure that we're making good decisions, wise use of our time, using our time and money and resources the right way, because the weight on us is $500 an hour. That's the responsibility that you've chosen to take on when you grow this business to $1 million. And again, do your own math, right? So when I ask, are all of your meetings healthy, productive, and necessary? You standing in that meeting, you have to be able to drive value in the business at $501 an hour. If you're not getting that value out of that meeting, then you've got to change the meeting to do that, or you got to cancel that meeting. It's not worthwhile. And this is where meetings get frustrating, when they go off the rails. When somebody comes and enters, they introduce a new subject that takes the meeting in another direction. It was supposed to be a 10-minute meeting, and now it's a 45-minute meeting. Maybe it's a production meeting, and those can go long, right? Just because we have all of the moving pieces and project managing contracting project. But let's say that's supposed to be a 1-hour meeting, and it's an hour and a half, and everybody dreads going into the meeting. And of course, so they dread it, so they don't want to come, and they find reasons not to be there. And pretty soon you don't have everybody there who needs to be there, and the meeting starts to fall apart. So I'm not going to solve everything here. Again, if you have questions about your meeting rhythms, if you're not getting the traction you need in your business, shoot me a text and just say, Dom, let's talk, right? But ask yourself, are all of your meetings healthy, productive, and necessary? Good meetings have a purpose. So when we do business coaching with companies just like yours, we actually do something called a meeting inventory. It's just what it sounds like. Tell me all the meetings you've got. Who's in the meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? What's the outcome of the meeting? There's a couple of rules to meetings, and I would leave that for an entirely separate episode, because putting your meetings together the right way in itself, it's not so much a skill as a skill and an art. Like, there's a number of different components that have to work together. Keeping in mind, none of us want to be in meetings. So let's move on. That's number two. Here's the number three part on the checklist. If you're self-implementing EOS, or if you find yourself stuck getting traction in your business, getting growth, getting to the next level, let me ask you this. Do you and your people have enough time to do the job, right? Your people only have 100% of their working time, right? If it takes more than 100% of their time to do the job well, meaning 5 things that they want to get done, you're just asking too much, right? Now, you might be surprised to hear a business coach say that, especially a business coach who specializes in turnarounds. You know, we all have a trade, right? I don't know what your trade is. Listening to the show, you might be a roofer, you might be an HVAC tech, you might be a cabinet maker, you might be really good at placing concrete, right? That's your technical background. My technical background, I came through the contracting trades and I started studying this stuff in my spare time and learning this stuff and hiring coaches and going to seminars back in the day, buying cassettes. I'm that old. I used to buy cassettes on these kind of things. So my trade has become being a turnaround business coach. That's my specialty. If you want to know what my trade is, right? If I wore a hard hat, it would say turnaround business coach. Do you and your people have enough time to do the job? It's easy. I'll tell you one of the frustrations for me as a business coach, and I've been doing this now for a long time. It doesn't matter how long, but long time. It doesn't even matter how many clients I've worked with, lots of them. It doesn't even matter how many of my own businesses, a bunch of them. What matters is I have super high expectations for output. And the voices in my head do not stop pushing me forward. The challenge is when I'm working with a client is I have to calm a lot of those voices. Why? Because when we're in a coaching meeting, you've got a business to run. I'm here as the business coach, right? So a typical business coaching rhythm, I guess you'd say, if you're on the gold coaching program with us, that's where you've got me and another coach standing beside you as you grow the business. There's 3 coaching meetings a month. 3. One of those meetings is specifically about strategy. 2 of those meetings every month is about implementation or execution or GSD, getting stuff done, right? And so you, me, and another coach work together on your business, and all of us are pushing forward. But we have to remember that you as the business owner, you're running a company. Maybe you're a cabinet installer. Maybe you're a tile installer. Maybe you're a flooring installer. Maybe you're a GC. You're already running that business. And so the challenge for us as business coaches is in our head and in our systems, we have a big, long list of stuff that needs to get done, and we want it done now. Problem is, you're running a business. So actually, there's a rule that we have in business coaching. I don't know if you know of this, but I'm happy to share it. At the end of any coaching meeting, at the end of any business coaching meeting you have with our team here, there can only be 3 action items for you as the client, as the business owner, only 3. And that gets broken down one other step. Of those 3 action items, 2 of them must be minor and only 1 can be major. So what's major? Major is going to take you a little bit of time to do. And what are the minor ones? Minor's pretty quick. So some of the minor examples might be talk to the bookkeeper about that report. Ask the bookkeeper for that report, right? Or download this tool, do this assessment, and just go for coffee and do that. That's a minor thing. A major thing might be talk to your foreman about the production scheduling issue we have. Talk to call in a vendor and ask about the pricing that they had promised to give you, but we didn't get the credits. And it's going to take some time. That's major. And then that's an example of some minor things. And obviously they change depending on you, your situation, your trade, time of year, stage of business, and all those things. But when I go back to the questions that might be holding you back on implementing EOS on your own or getting traction in your business, here comes that word, traction, which is right from the book. Ask yourself, do you and your people have enough time to do the job? if you find yourself in a situation where you are stuck on item number 3, do me and my people have enough time to do what we need to do to turn this around? There's a download we have that I don't actually talk about very much, but I'm happy to share it if you want it. I'll tell you 2 seconds. It's called the Blueprint, Construction Millionaire Blueprint. And what I did many years ago when I was starting to train the business coaches who've now joined the team is I had to put down the order of operations of a business turnaround in one flowchart. I love flowcharts. I'm kind of a geek. I like flowcharts, right? And so the flowchart is the Construction Millionaire Blueprint. If you want the blueprint, I'm happy to share it with you. It just walks you through, do this, then do that, then do this. And if you're ever stuck at any stage, you simply go back up the loop. It's just a blueprint like you would, or I'm sorry, it's a flowchart like you would have any flowchart, right? Do this, do this, do this, do this. If you're stuck, go back up a level. If you're stuck there, go back up a level and get that done. It actually lays out how to break through all these 5 questions anyways. It's called the Construction Millionaire Blueprint. If you want that, what's the keyword? Just send me the word blueprint. Send me the word blueprint and I'll know which one to send you. Text it to me. Easiest thing, 315-903-7853. Listen, I will tell you, it is a meaty, chunky, beefy piece of documentation. It's not big, but as you look through it, you're going to say, well, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I'm doing that, but I skipped 3 steps to get to that. You realize that there's some steps missing, right? Other people look at it and go, I don't even know about this step. I didn't realize that was a thing. So it'll help you. It'll give you some perspective. But here's what I want you to do. If you get that download from me, and I want you to have it, leave the off, print the thing off, leave the office, go get a coffee. Do yourself the favor. Please go get a coffee at a nice coffee shop. Recently I was in Pennsylvania and I stopped at a Starbucks. It could have been a surgical operating room at a hospital. It was not nice in there. Go somewhere nicer than Starbucks. Like go to a nice coffee shop or go to a grungy diner. I don't care. I don't. But what I want you to be is some place that you're comfortable, but also up market. I want you to think up market. As a matter of fact, if we really want to throw a double challenge on the table, I want you to go to the coffee shop where your perfect customer hangs out. If you want to work in the nicest neighborhoods or if you want to work with the best GCs and builders, go where that builder goes for coffee. Sit in that coffee shop with this blueprint that you've downloaded from me. Get a cup of coffee. And when you think, Dom, money's a little bit tight right now, I really can't afford to buy myself coffee, then take a selfie of yourself with the paper and the coffee and send it to me. Just send it to the same cell phone number, text it to me, and I'll send you a $5 Amazon gift card. I want to buy your coffee. I know it's goofy and I probably never heard this kind of thing before, but I'm committed to your success. My whole team is. I hope we will do what it takes to help you get where you want. Have you guys ever heard the analogy of the how life shows up in your breakfast plate? Bacon and eggs, right? You have to ask yourself, is Dom the bacon or the eggs? And you're like, Rubino, come on, man. You come up with some weird analogies, but where's this one going? Well, when you hear me offering to pay for your coffee, when you hear me offering free downloads that'll walk you through this on you actually never need to talk to me in your life and you will still know how to turn around your business. And you never have to talk to me. Just send me a cell phone, a text message on the cell, get the free download and go put the thing in place. Right? But you also have to ask yourself, is Rubino and his team, like the breakfast plate? Are they the eggs or the bacon? And the analogy there is level of commitment. When you look at your plate of breakfast, maybe on a Saturday morning, you're having bacon and eggs. Which one of those is more committed, the chicken or the pig? The chicken is a participant. It gave you some eggs. But the bacon, pig, he's committed. I'm the bacon. 100% committed to your success. I'm not kidding, right? What can I do to help? That's why I said, if you want to talk, just say, Dom, let's talk. Send me a text message. It's that easy, right? The only thing holding you back is you. Anyways, we're still on question number 3. The offer I just made was, if you want to do this on your own, if you find yourself stuck on the first 3 questions, are all of your direct reports the right people in the right seat? Are all of your meetings healthy, productive, and necessary? Do you and your people have enough time to do the job? In the first 3 questions, just send me a message, get the blueprint, and then you'll be able to see what's going on. All right, number 4, Number 4, is everybody following the process? Is everybody on board? You know, we just had another contractor who wanted to put lean in place. Now, those of you who aren't familiar with lean implementation, the Toyota way, it's also called Kaizen. It also gets referred to as continuous and never-ending improvement. You might think, well, lean doesn't matter for me, Dom. Everything we do is custom. Yeah, okay. Just cool your jets, my friend. Lean is not about production. It's about the process. It's a mindset of efficiency, of removing waste. You guys have heard me talk about how to find and fix the 8 profit leaks in your business. Some of you have downloaded that. Just send me that, say profit leaks, I'll send it to you. But that's what we're talking about is everybody following the manufacturing process? Do we have leaks in our business? And profit leaks, by the way, are the worst kind of leak that we can have because we've already made that money. It's actually ours for the taking. And at the last minute, it slips from our grasp inside the company. So let me ask you this, is everybody following the process? And a contractor that I just started working with, or we just started working with as the company here, he's actually being coached by Coach Lee, has somebody on the team who doesn't want to follow the lean methodology. Part of the lean methodology is things that might blow your mind. Like the first one is you take a half hour every day to do something called set, sort, and order, which means that when the whistle goes or the bell goes off, whatever you have, your buzzer in your shop or your job site, you take a half an hour to clean and organize your workspace, to sort yourself. And some of you are shaking your head. You're like, are you kidding me? We're already tight for time and you want me to take 30 minutes to sort of tidy things up? Yes. Yes. If your mind isn't there yet, it's okay. But understand that this particular contractor's mind is there, and that's the challenge of the day. He's got a super brilliant technician who said to him, I ain't sweeping. Because sweeping is something everybody needs to do. Sweeping is something even the president and owner would do. So when you go to Toyota, everybody, including the president of the company, would sweep. They would sweep the shop. They would sweep the job site. They would sweep because sweeping shows the discipline of keeping everything in order. And he had this gentleman who said, I ain't sweeping. Sweeping's not for me. If I work here, I don't sweep. Well, that gentleman no longer works in that company. And that was a cojones move on my client's part, on our client's part. Cojones. Because if everybody's not following the process is always going to get stuck. You can't have a separate set of rules for your brother, Jimmy. Sorry if you got a brother named Jimmy who wants a separate set of rules. It's not going to work. It is not going to work if Jimmy's got a separate set of rules. Funny side story. Do you guys like funny side stories? Who wants a funny side story that's going to amaze you? This is years ago, but I get called into a construction company that I know very well. And I'm having a meeting with only one of the 3 partners, which is not ideal, but it was the start of the conversation. So that's where we were. As I'm having the meeting, I could see that somebody is walking behind me because the owner that I'm speaking to keeps looking out the sort of the, you've got that 2-foot glass panel, vertical glass panel, so you can see out while it's still private in the office. I can see him looking out there. There's somebody else walking around. And I'm like, hey, do you have to go talk to this? He goes, no, it's my brother-in-law. He just wants to see what's going on in here. I'm like, invite him in. He's like, nope. And in my mind, I'm like, well, we're talking about your contracting business. It's about a $10 million commercial contractor doing the kind of work that you would do. They have all the contracts at the university and the hospital, like they do, and at transit stations, like they do big stuff like that, right? They're doing about 10 million a year at this time. Right now, I think they're around 25 now. 10 million a year. And I'm like, well, what's going on? He goes, well, look, it's me. I'm the brother-in-law, and my other 2 partners are brothers. So the guy that I'm talking to is the brother-in-law. He married the sister, if that makes sense. One of the brother-in-laws has a quote unquote problem. And he comes in, and every once in a while he says, I need this much money, no questions asked. I need this much money, no questions asked. And the way the family runs, they just give him the money. He's got a problem with some bad people, and it's around gambling, as you probably already figured out. And they just keep siphoning money off, but he takes that money, and none of the brother-in-law and the brother don't take it either. And so there's a separate set of rules for this brother who's got a gambling problem. And he just comes in and like he asks for tens of thousands at a time. but it has to be no questions asked. And because he's the little brother and everybody wants to protect him and blah, blah, blah. So he's built this situation where he can ask for anything he wants, no questions asked. And everybody wants to protect him. It's always poor, I'll make up his name, poor Jimmy, poor Johnny, poor Timmy, right? That's a pretty extreme situation. But if you're running a company, you're building a team. Everybody has to follow the process, right? You can't have a football team and have one guy playing soccer. You just can't do it. You can't have a hockey team and have one guy playing tennis. It's time to stand up as a leader and find a way to get everybody following the process. And if they can't do that, they don't get to be on the team. And it's easier said than done. We walk through this kind of process all the time. One of the things you might not know is that being a business coach, especially in contracting and construction, has a lot to do with family business dynamics. The only other industry I could think of that would have more family business dynamics is the restaurant industry. And we don't coach that industry at all. But we do coach construction and contracting. If you have questions about that, even if it's dicey conversation and you don't know who else to talk to, just again, I want to make the offer. Just send me a text and just say, Dom, let's talk. 315-903-7853. Just say, Dom, let's talk. 315-903-7853. All right, that's question 4. Is everybody following the process? And then number 5, are you taking breaks? Are you taking breaks to get clear? Now, the way that we do that when we use the EOS model for business coaching, which it works so well for construction, for contracting, for subtrades, for GCs, for builders. And the reason it works well is because it's easy to understand. You know, I was talking about mastering the Rockefeller habits system earlier. It's good, but it's a little more corporate. You know, the company I used it for is the one that I had built to 120 million in sales. It made sense there. We had lots of departments. We had lots of departmental managers. Those managers had maybe 20 people ultimately reporting to them each. You know, one of our departments was 40 people on its own. So you need that when you have got that kind of complexity, you need a different system, which is fine. I know that system as well. But the system that generally works great for contracting and construction, even if you're largely made up of subtrades, is the book Traction. And so that's why today is all about, are you self-implementing EOS and are you stuck, and getting back to basics. So I want to talk about somebody who got stuck. Look, there was a company that I've been talking to for a while, and you know, they're like, hey, Dom, we think we might want to coach with you guys. It's interesting. We listen to the podcast. We love your stuff. We got all the downloads. You know, we look at them, and they're an active participant in the podcast, right? There's some people who listen and never ask for the downloads. Totally cool. There's other people who like download everything we've ever offered, and that's great too. And there's a lot of people who download them or who ask for them, and we send them and they never download them, right? So there's that category of people. So they've got them in their inbox and they'll get to it later. And then there's a category like this one. They actually download everything and the owner thinks about it and does the work and has gotten $5 Amazon gift cards from me because they're doing the work. It's all good. But we haven't started working together, right? That's fine. That's fine. I live in a world where you already are my business coaching client. Did you know that? Yeah, in my head, you were already my client. And just waiting for us to meet. Anyways, this company saw a lot of success that EOS was bringing because they were self-implementing. But what happened is it kind of became the flavor of the day. They got a lot of initial momentum in the company, but they got not complacent, but they just kind of used to it. And the momentum fell away, right? And so how does that look? Well, pretty soon they stopped having the L10 meetings. The L10 meeting is what we would call a coaching meeting. An L10 meeting, a level 10 meeting, is where we all get together and talk about the accountabilities that we have in our departments, right? So your foreman has some accountabilities. If you've got a project manager, they've got some accountabilities. If you got a bookkeeper or somebody in the office, they've got accountabilities, right? Maybe you have an engineering department or a drafting or an estimating. You know, see what I mean? Everybody who's in that meeting has some accountabilities this quarter, which means in the next 3 months, you know, the estimator has to get this done, these 3 things done. The foreman has to get these 3 things done. And that's what an L10 meeting is. But what happened is, and this happens so often, they started skipping the L10. And it's for all the normal reasons, right? It was Thanksgiving that week, so we kind of skipped it. And then it became, so that was 1 week missed. Then we missed 2 weeks. And then it was 3 weeks. And pretty soon somebody goes, hey, weren't we supposed to have an L10 meeting? And the people in the background go, yeah, but don't remind the boss or we're going to have to do it again. And so it just kind of falls off. It just naturally goes, and you lose that momentum. And I know who I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to us as the owners of these businesses. If we don't keep the focus, if we don't keep the fire burning, then the water doesn't boil, right? So because they're getting success in general, they didn't notice that even without the L10 meetings, some of the leading indicators on their scorecard, right, on the dashboard, were starting to dry up. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you don't have a dashboard is something we use here, and you'll see that in the blueprint, by the way. You'll see that you've got a dashboard in place. You understand your key numbers, right? Those key numbers help you understand what the business is going to do, not today. Today's already done. I want to know what's happening in a week, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. And we use leading indicators in the business that tell us what's coming down the pipeline. Some of you call that work in progress. We've all got different names in different industries and the way we run our companies, right? But if you're not paying attention to the numbers, you're not reading the story of the future of the business, right? So I'm going to use an exact situation. I've got a home renovation client been working with for a while, and they had some problem with their designers. Now, their designers are actually the salespeople, right? They're called designers, but they go out and they meet the homeowners and they sell the renovation project. And then, they kind of project manage it until it gets to a certain stage. And then the construction people take over and, it all gets managed inside the company as a normal process for a home reno. The math you need to know that'll help with this is from the first day they meet a prospect. Let's say they meet somebody at the home show, just as an example. It takes about 3 months to close that deal, to actually get pen on paper, contract, and check in hand. So there's 3 months, right? So they meet somebody at the home show. It takes 3 months to get that deal closed. Now, some of you, it takes longer. Some of you, it takes less. Doesn't matter. That's their number. But the designers started losing sight of their goals. And the designers weren't following up properly and weren't closing deals. So 3 months was stretching into 4 months, stretched into 5 months, stretched into 6 months. And sales were drying up. Now, when sales dry up, you guys know what happens. You're starting to lay guys off in the field. And it's hard to find good quality people in the field. How do you replace them? But if you don't have work, you can't keep them. So it was getting pretty dicey. Ultimately, the decision had to be made that one of the designers was not the right seat on the right bus because she was cancer. She just had the wrong attitude. And she was blaming everything around herself instead of saying, I'm not doing a good job of following up with people, of helping put their vision on paper, building the dream, etc. And we all have different trades here. I understand that, and different ways of approaching our trade. I get that. But in this situation, that's what happened. So think about that 6-month gap now. If we had another rock star who we inserted in there, it would still take that rock star designer 3 months to close a deal. So we now have 9 months of bruising inside the company, all because they started skipping the meetings. The momentum fell off. We took our eye off the ball. 9 months to close the meeting, a year and a half to complete the job. The impact on the cash flow was so intense because they stopped paying attention to the critical numbers they needed to and taking action on it, right? That's when the wheels start to come off, folks. And you may have seen this. If you're stuck in that loop and if you're frustrated, we got to get you back to where you've got that quiet confidence where what did I say earlier? Chaos to clarity, right? You just got to get back in control of the business. And there's tools to do that, which is why you're listening to the show, right? I want to get you back to the basics, right? If you're self-implementing EOS, or if you've never had a plan before, here's a couple of tools that'll get you started. I'm going to take you in a weird direction. This is one you probably didn't expect me to go in. If you're still not sure what to do next, I want to get you back to the basics with you yourself as the leader. I want you to do this exercise on your own. There's no use trying to change the team until you know what your priorities are first. What are you trying to build? And so there's a download I want to offer you. Some of you already have it, which is cool. Doesn't matter. It's still valuable. It's called the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. And if you want it, text me 315-903-7853 and just say healthy, wealthy, wise. Now, the reason this is important, well, actually, let me tell you where I got this. I got this through a friend of mine who runs another podcast called What CEOs Talk About. So you might be thinking, well, Dom, I don't need this healthy, wealthy, wise planner. What the heck are you talking about? CEOs use it. CEOs of large, multinational, multi-gajillion dollar companies use this tool. So you, my friend, if you don't think you need this tool, you got to check up from the neck up. It's exactly what you need. Because unless you and I are solid, listen, unless you're solid as a parent and as a parenting team, what's going to happen to your kids, right? Unless you and I are solid in our faith and our fitness and our way of looking forward in the future, what's going to happen to the rest of our lives? And so this healthy, wealthy, wise planner is a surprise. You didn't probably expect to hear that when we're talking about, are you self-implementing EOS? But how I do anything is how I do everything. And if I have a calm inner voice, if I'm solid in my goals, if I cannot be pushed off the horse, or to use the horse analogy, you guys have heard me talk about my ranching friends. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Well, what do you stand for? What do I stand for? What's my healthy, wealthy, wise planner? Anyways, just get it. Take a picture, take a selfie. We've all done selfies with your cup of coffee and text it to me and I'll buy your coffee. And you get the free download. It's called the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner. But get yourself centered first before you start going to the team and trying to change them. Because flavor of the day and losing momentum on these things actually causes a lot of problems. You know, one of the reasons that coaching works so well, and I'm not even talking about me, you might decide never to work with me or my team here, ever, and that's fine. But the reason coaching works well is because coaching works well. Why do athletes have business coaches? Why do politicians have speech writers? Why do musicians have coaches and producers? Because they're at the top of their game and they're always looking for that edge to get better. And the ones that are up and coming that we've never heard of, the athletes we've never heard of before, are toiling in obscurity right now in a field, in a gym, at a community center. They're the future athletes that we're going to be cheering for on TV. And right now they're toiling in obscurity, scratching every penny together to get a specialty coach for fitness, nutrition, mindset, strength, stamina, fast twitch muscle fiber, whatever it is they know they need to work on. They don't shirk from it. They're like, I need better reaction times. And so they do the better reaction time exercises that they need to, just the same as I suggested the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner for us. But you could download fast twitch muscle exercises right off the internet. So why would they go get a coach? Accountability, the little things, perspective. Somebody standing there 5 or 6 feet away saying, you know, when you place your foot, I noticed that your left foot is a little pigeon-toed. Why don't you try to set it a bit to the outside so you can engage the outer quadriceps? And that'll increase your speed. That little tip, how are you ever going to know that if you're looking down at your own foot? You need the perspective. We all need that perspective. I need that perspective. I work with coaches. I'm no different than you. No different at all, except that I think I'm at the point where I've realized I don't have all the answers. I got a lot of questions. But you go tell me what to do, and we're engaged in that goal, I will do it. Nothing will stop me. If we encounter a problem, bring it on. Over it, under it, around it, through it, or I'm going to redefine it so it suits my purposes. And, you know, you can get there too. You can get there too, but you got to know who you are first. So get the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Plan. I can't even remember how many different documents I've suggested today. If I suggested it, and if you want it, as you know, send me a text message at 315-903-7853. And beyond all of that, just say, Dom, let's talk. If you think you're finally ready to take the step to get this company where you want to get it to. All right. We covered a lot here. Your cabinet shop, your roofing company, whatever trade you've got, your HVAC business, your remodeling company, wherever it is today can be a different place tomorrow. I want to take you back to Ricardo's law of comparative advantage, the revenue responsibility per hour. Stand proud and stand tall. You've created something out of nothing. Using that $1 million metric, get an assistant, somebody who you pay 25, 40 bucks an hour because you're worth $500 an hour. Remember, we're not going to invoice ourselves to the next client at 500 bucks to go fix the gate to her backyard. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the responsibility you have looking out over the company you've built, over the vans in your fleet, over your shop, whatever it is. You have to be doing work at $501 an hour to make that make sense. You've always got to be moving forward. If $500 an hour is your number, by the way, and this podcast episode itself did not give you $501 of value, then you have my full permission to unsubscribe and delete all upcoming episodes because it's a waste of your time. And you, my friend, are too important to waste your time. It's just how that's just cold logic. Anyhow, can you tell I love this stuff? I hope you can. I do. I love it. I'm here to help however I can. Listen, we've added people to the team. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in the outro. I would be very proud to work with you as your business coach. We've seen a lot of things, but we haven't seen everything. We're still open to learning. We still train ourselves a lot as business coaches, as a coaching team. And so we believe in what we do here because we're always also training ourselves. So let's find a way to talk at some point in the future when you're ready. As I said earlier, in my head, you're already my coaching client. We just haven't met yet. But that's the level of certainty that I go into this world with because I know that myself and Lee and the rest of us here, Omzi, Ryan, Jake, we can help. We're here to help. This is what we love to do. Love it. And we have the intent. All right. If you're self-implementing EOS and you're having success, keep at it. You're on the right path. It is exactly the tool that you need. And so let me give you a thumbs up. If you've stopped having the L10 meetings, if you've stopped looking at the dashboard, if you don't have the right people on the team, if somehow, somewhere things just aren't going the way you want them to, then let's go find the root cause. Why is that the case? And let's go fix that because it can be done. All right, folks, thanks very much. We're going to head to the outro now. We'll talk to you soon. Well, what did you learn from me today? There was a lot of Dom in that episode, but I hope you found value in it. I thought it was really important that we pulled apart this question about, are you self-implementing EOS? Heck, some of you might not have known that it's possible to self-implement EOS because there's people out there trying to do it. The problem is the accountability and the consistency and also the little tips. You know, it's the tricks of the trade, right? The tools of the trade. We're in the cabinet industry here, right? So people go, how do you always hang cabinets so they're plumb square and level? And how do you do it so fast? To you, that's not even a question. But to somebody who's never done it, it seems like magic, alchemy. How does he do that? He's got an eye. No, he does. He has systems. It's the same thing myself and my team have. We have systems. And I wanted to share those systems with you because some of you are trying to self-implement. It's really hard to be the visionary when you don't have an implementer. It's a lot easier to have an implementer when it's one of my team because it's what we do all day long. Anyways, think about what you could put in place. I got a really, really nice text message, a long one. This gentleman's in New Mexico. We're going to say his name's Aaron because it ain't, but we're going to say his name's Aaron. And here's what he sent me as a text message. I want you to see this because he actually mentioned the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner, which we talked about in the episode here today. So here's his text message. It's over a couple of pieces here. Hey there. Wanted to drop you a quick text to say thanks a bunch. I first heard you on the Warrior Dad podcast. So he heard me on a different I'm a guest on other shows as well. So he heard me on the Warrior Dad podcast, and he must have then followed me back here. As a busy sealing contractor in New Mexico, finding balance between work and family has been a real struggle. But man, your podcast totally opened my eyes. Let me stop there for a second. I actually, when I first got this, I thought he did architectural ceilings, but he doesn't. He does drop ceilings. But some of you out there do architectural ceilings. Some of you, for the first time ever, found out right now that there's a thing called architectural ceilings. There is. Anyways, let's get back to what Aaron is saying. The Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner, absolute game changer. And there's like 3 or 4 exclamation marks there. Seriously, sitting down with that was like getting hit with a bolt of clarity. I realized I was drowning in work and missing out on precious time with my fam. I think he means family. So I made a commitment to change things up. So I made a commitment to change things up. Started setting boundaries, delegating tasks smarter, and boom. I've been home by 5 p.m. for the last 2 weeks straight. The look on my kids' faces when I walk in early, priceless. Guys, that one hits me hard. If that's the value you're getting from this show, I'm never stopping this show. Ever. Just wanted to shoot you a text today to say thanks for making such a huge difference in my life. Your podcast isn't about being a better business person. It's about being a better dad too. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You've changed lives, mine included. Pretty nice. Thanks, Aaron. Now, Aaron, as you hear me read that, you know that your name's not Aaron. And we all know your name's not Aaron, but I don't always share people's names. In some cases, I do if they have their permission, but if I don't, I don't. Hey, did you know that my company's gone through some changes as well? Those of you who follow me closely, some of you who are clients have already seen some of the ups and downs and the wacky, wacky things that happened to me this year, to happen to all of us this year. But part of the changes that have been happening in the background before that wackiness was I started moving away from the name 10X Built and more towards the name, and some of you may not have heard this yet, the name Contractor Wealth Systems. And the reason that's important is because I've come to realize that my perfect client isn't easy to define unless you define their brains. It's people who want to build a legacy. So there's a burning desire in them for more, and they want to build for family, for a number of other reasons. And what they're looking for is wealth. Now, wealth, like I said, with family, with finances, with legacy, and all those things. So I've decided that the overarching brand holding together the two podcasts is Contractor Wealth Systems. And you'll see coffee mugs and hats coming out about that pretty soon. But as a result, I'm not going to be talking about 10X Built anymore. That's just kind of like a holding brand, right? Because I've got these two shows. You guys know this show. It's called Cabinet Maker Profit System. Pretty specific, right? But you may not know I have another podcast, and that podcast is called Profit Tool Belt. And you may not know I have a book. It's called Construction Millionaire Secrets. And you may not know that we run different courses and trainings. And you may not know that we run Construction Millionaire Bootcamp. And you may not know that we just launched the business operations audit. Well, how do I put all of those things together in a way that makes sense? And so what I've done is above everything is Construction Millionaire Secrets. And underneath that are the two podcasts, the book, and all the media that I do, et cetera. So it should make it a lot easier for people to find me and to continue to grow. My goal is your enrichment. That's what I want to do. I'm here to educate. Listen, we've also added some new services, some new ways of working together. If some of you might be curious, so I'll let you know what that is. And then we'll get into simplifying and solving a common problem today. But there's coaching where we work one-on-one with you, like standing right beside you, working on the business. And you hear lots of these stories. Many of the people on the show never say that they are coaching with us, and others say it out loud. It's just everybody's personal preference. But when you hear stories of somebody coming to us doing, $600,000 or $700,000 and suddenly jumping to 1.2, and then from 1.2 getting to 4, when you hear about somebody who came to us at 3 million is now knocking on the door of $10 million as a cabinet maker, those are all the kind of things we do when we stand beside you and showing you the obstacles, lighting them up, and helping you navigate those. That's coaching, right? And anytime, if you're in a coaching program with us, there's 3 coaching meetings a month, not 2, not 1, there's 3. One of them is all based on strategy, and the other 2 meetings are on implementation. We can talk more about that if you ever want, right? So we call that gold coaching, right? But we've added something else for people that aren't sure about what direction to take. We've just developed a new program. Now it's new only in that we've packaged together some things that have been very, very valuable. And we do a debrief afterwards, and it's called the Business Operations Audit. And the reason we put it together is because sometimes people say, hey, for instance, Dom, let's talk. Then we have a conversation. Then they call back and go, hey, can we talk a little bit more? And so we do, right? But sometimes they're not sure. Do I go to one-on-one coaching, or do I do the Construction Millionaire Bootcamp, which is the 6-week program? So there's kind of a fork in the road. They're not sure which way to go. So what we've decided is, hey, let's create the audit. The audit allows everybody to step back. Of course, it's priced very affordably, so it's easy to make that decision. You step back and you look at everything, boom, at once. And before anybody makes a commitment in time or in money that gets them too far down the path, they've got an audit in front of them that lays out the entire path, everything there. You take all of your feelings and you turn them into logic. You take that logic and you turn it into a report on paper, something tangible that you can look at. Anyways, it's a great way to dip your toe in the water, get a full perspective overview on what to do next. Then we've got Construction Millionaire Bootcamp. We run that bootcamp as often as we can. And it's great. It's 6 weeks. It takes you through the fundamentals of getting this business where you need it to be. We have fantastic stories in there. Now, James is somebody you're going to hear about pretty soon because James, we sponsored James. So let me go back. We met James through boot camp. I actually met James the first time when I did one of those coffee meetups. He came down and we had a coffee. Fantastic guy, super guy. Well, then he decided to do the Construction Millionaire Bootcamp, which is fantastic. By the second week, he'd closed a deal about 60 grand, and his margin on that, his profit was going to be in the 30s, $30,000. Wasn't going to have to lift a hammer. Totally changed the way he viewed his business. By the second session of bootcamp, by the way, crazy. So there's lots of people in that. By the way, James just went to Argentina on a dove hunt that he bought through the Dallas Safari Club. So you can kind of see where he was before and where he is now. These things have changed for Mr. James. So anyways, he's got some videos he's going to share. So watch for those coming up. Anyways, one other thing that I did is we've had so many people going through boot camp, but there's nowhere else for them to go because they're still on a growth path. And so what we have created now is a Construction Millionaire Bootcamp alumni program. So if you've come through the bootcamp, if you've been listening to the show for 100 years and you used to be in something called 30-day construction business, then you qualify and we'll let you know that you could join the alumni program. Obviously, you cannot join the alumni program cold. You have to go through boot camp first. Those of you who have been in boot camp understand what I mean. Those of you who haven't, it's okay. We'll explain it if we ever get a chance to meet. Anyways, those are some of the changes that are happening here. Along with, I've changed the intro and outro to the podcast. I'm trying to tighten those up. We're going to be doing some new things on the YouTube channel. The websites are getting some updating. There's a lot going on here. And I hope you find it exciting and valuable. Oh, plus we're running more courses. Lots going on. All right, let's simplify and solve a common problem for us in this trade. I think today's episode did a good job of that. And I want to just go back and in my notes, I realized we talked about three things: the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Planner, the Blueprint document, which I actually don't talk about very much, but you should grab if you can. And then, of course, as always, just say, Dom, let's talk if you want to talk about the business. The way to do any of those things is just send me a text. Pretty simple. Like almost primitive. Just send me a text message. 315-903-7853. Just say, Dom, let's talk. And then we'll talk, right? Or Blueprint. And then I'll send you the Blueprint. Or Healthy, Wealthy, Wise. And I'll send you that. And it holds true as well. If there's an episode that's been sticking in your head and you never got the download that you wanted, just shoot me a note, explain what it is, give me some keywords, we'll figure it out together, and then I'll send it off. My goal in sending these documents to you is that you have all of the tools at your disposal to do what you need to do. There should be nothing held back. Everything. You actually never need to talk to me ever. Just take these professional development tools. By the way, that's another change we're making here in the company. We want to make sure that we all understand that what we provide is not free downloads, is not content. We're providing professional development tools for those of us in the trades. And again, say that with me: shoulders back, head up, chin up, just a half an inch, taking in a deep breath. These are professional development tools for us in the trades, for running this like a business, right? So listen, if you want any of those things, let me know. If there's anything I can do, let me know. I look forward to meeting you one day. One day you and I are going to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. I'm going to be in Denver in a little while. I'm going to be fishing the South Platte River with some friends. If you are in Denver, let me know. Kurt and Cole, I know you guys are out there. I'll be trying to visit you as well. But maybe you get a chance to have a coffee or a glass of wine, right? If you're in Denver and you haven't reached out, reach out. Love to see you when we're there. My son's in a lacrosse tournament, so we're going to be out there for that. And then I've got some other travel coming up. I'm going to be in New Orleans in November. I'm going to be in Texas, I think, sometime around December. And if we ever have a chance, an opportunity to grab a coffee, we just cannot miss it. I look forward to it more than you know. Thanks for checking in, folks. I hope you have a great day. Hope you got a lot of value from today, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.